Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Hello everyone, my name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to a special segment brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast. This is not a regular episode of the podcast, but I realized earlier that this is normally the slot in which I promote this week's movie at the Backdoor Theater. And without a full segment to actually use for this Monday, I don't really have any other way of promoting the movie on the podcast. So we're doing something a little special. I'm going to read an article that I wrote for the March 24th, 2022 edition of The Mountaineer in order to prep for this week's Music of the Mountains episode on Friday. But of course, before we do that, here's this week's movie at the Backdoor Theater. This is not a new release screening, and there will be no Saturday matinee this weekend. On Friday, November 1st and Saturday, November 2nd, starting at 7 p.m., you can head over to the Backdoor Theater, located at 750 North Highway 72 in Nederland, in the Nederland Community Center, to check out the animated classic, The Nightmare Before Christmas. The film is rated PG. Here's the summary. The film follows the misadventures of Jack Skellington, Halloween Town's beloved Pumpkin King, who has become bored with the same annual routine of frightening people in the real world. When Jack accidentally stumbles on Christmas Town, all bright colors and warm spirits, he gets a new lease on life. He plots to bring Christmas under his control by kidnapping Santa Claus and taking over the role. But Jack soon discovers even the best-laid plans of mice and skeleton men can go seriously awry. By the way, a common misconception is that Tim Burton directed this movie. Yes, he wrote the story and created the characters, and he did produce the film, so it is billed as Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, but the director is Henry Selick. It's a common misconception that Tim Burton directed it, and I just wanted to throw that out there in case you didn't know. Anyway, you can celebrate the perfect midpoint between Halloween and Christmas, the weekend directly after Halloween, and a couple of months right before Christmas, by seeing The Nightmare Before Christmas at the Backdoor Theater on Friday, November 1st and Saturday, November 2nd, starting at 7 p.m. This also feels like a good time to dedicate this particular segment and that movie promotion to Ken Page, who played one of the lead villains in The Nightmare Before Christmas and recently passed away at the end of September 2024. Celebrate his legacy and celebrate the midpoint between Halloween and Christmas by going to the Backdoor Theater and having a great time at the movies. All right, now let's transition into the article. Music of the Mountains, Gasoline Lollipops. Written and read by Jamie Lammers for the March 24th, 2022 edition of The Mountaineer. Gasoline Lollipops started as a cowpunk duo 16 years ago, with Clay Rose and Johnny Machine Gun Mauser serving as the two leads of the band. Now, after many shifts in the lineup and many years of honing the band's sound, Gasoline Lollipops consists of 5 main members: Rose, Don Ambry, Scott Coulter, Bad Brad Morse, and Kevin Matthews. Rose is the only member of the band that does not have a music degree. Morse graduated in Florida, specializing in classical music. Matthews graduated in Denver, specializing in jazz, and Coulter also specialized in jazz. Ambry primarily focuses on Texas-style country and psychedelic rock, and Rose comes from a punk and folk background and focuses on songwriting for the band. Denver Westward has twice awarded Gasoline Lollipops the Best Country Band Award, but Rose says that it was never his intention to create a country band. Colorado Daily's Best Local Band Award, which the band has won 3 times, fits more in line with what Rose is going for, a band that meshes multiple different influences and sounds together to create a whole new atmosphere that is different from any other band out there. Rose says that the band intentionally tries to get out of any particular genre confines. Their previous album release, All the Misery Money Can Buy, is more blues and soul-oriented, while their next album, which is slated for release this spring, focuses more on acoustic, ethereal, and folk sounds. Rose loves the feeling that the band gets from gathering together and performing live. Audiences often shape the set list live, as Rose typically doesn't put together a set list for each show, and rather lets the mood of the audience dictate what kind of songs will be played that night. He likes feeling unprepared for a stage show, and he loves the fan base that the band has been able to form over the years. To him, music feels very spiritual in nature, and playing in a band as unique as Gasoline Lollipops only heightens that spirituality. You can catch Gasoline Lollipops live at the Caribou Room, 55 Indian Peaks Drive in Nederland on Friday, March 25th, 2022. Doors and dinner open at 7 p.m., and the show starts at 8 p.m. Tickets are $20. Be sure to stream All the Misery Money Can Buy wherever you get your music. And that's the article. There are some updates that I do want to make, of course. 16 years ago is now, of course, slightly longer, approximately 20 years ago. Also, I ended up accidentally writing 4 members of the band in the original article instead of 5 members of the band, and then listed all 5 members. I don't know how I missed that at the time or for this long, but I ended up changing it for this particular reading. Oh, and updates on the musical lives of Gasoline Lollipops. Of course, All the Misery Money Can Buy is no longer their latest album release. That spring's album release was called Nightmares, which you can also stream wherever you get your music. They've since released a handful of singles, and they are currently working on their next album, which we'll talk about more later this week. And of course, the information for the Caribou Room show is out of date because March 25th, 2022 has, of course, long passed. However, the promotion still stands. The reason why I am reading this particular article for this special segment of the Mountaineer Podcast is because Gasoline Lollipops are this week's musical guests, as well as their opening band, the Al Capones, who will be performing at the Caribou Room, 55 Indian Peaks Drive in Nederland on Saturday, November 16th. Doors open and dinner starts at 7 p.m. and the show starts at 8 p.m. Gasoline Lollipops is now the second musician or group of musicians that I have covered in Music of the Mountains twice, the first one being Derek Dames Ohl. I figured it made sense to focus on them for this particular column and podcast, though, because we will not only be focusing on Clay Rose from Gasoline Lollipops for this week's Music of the Mountains, but we'll also be bringing in Sean Guerin and Sam Gehring from the Al Capones to talk about their band as well. So be sure to check in Friday to see how Clay Rose and Gasoline Lollipops have been doing since I last interviewed them, and to learn more about the Al Capones and both of the band's upcoming show at the Caribou Room on Saturday, November 16th. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's everything I have for this shorter segment of the Mountaineer Podcast. I don't really want to designate this as a full episode, so I'm not going to be using intro or outro music for this episode. But we'll be back with a regular episode on Friday for the Music of the Mountains segment. In the meantime, if you want to share this segment or our previous episodes around with whoever you see fit, then be sure to head to our podcast's main hub at the mtnearpodcast.buzzsprout.com or scroll down near to the bottom of our website's homepage, the mtnear.com. If you're a member of the Peak to Peak area and you want to be involved in the podcast in some way, you want to be interviewed, you want to provide us with a segment, you have advertising you want us to share, whatever it may be, then please email me at media@themountaineer.com and we'll get that sorted for you. All right, I'll see you later this week for a regular episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. Have a great rest of your day!
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.